Betrayal and comic books go hand in hand, and they've always had varying degrees of success. When they're done badly, they just seem like a cheap cash-in or something that was done to generate interest in a flagging title. But when they're done right, however, they can leave the reader gobsmacked and desperate to find out what happens next. Over its 72-year history, Marvel has had more than its fair share. What follows is a look at the times Marvel have left jaws on the floor and hearts broken as some of their most iconic characters have turned their backs on their closest friends. With that in mind, I'm a slightly ill Will for What Culture, back from noticing how the title of this video is dangerously close to being a meme, to bring you the 10 most shocking betrayals in Marvel Comics. Number 10, Mr. Sinister, Age of Apocalypse. It's not just heroes who can make you have a slack-jawed yokel moment, villains can have that effect as well. Taking place during the excellent Age of Apocalypse reality, the turn by Mr. Sinister is one that very few people saw coming, though with hindsight, a lot more really should have. After Legion accidentally kills Professor X and changes the timeline so that Apocalypse attacks 10 years earlier than he was supposed to, everything seems rosy for Nathaniel Essex in a world now controlled by En Sabah Nur. Convinced that they are both working towards the same goal for the advancement of mutant kind, it soon dawns on him that the only thing that Apocalypse is truly interested in is death. Turning to Nate Gray and getting his ass handed to him in the process, he lays out the truth about the X-Man's existence, with the sole reason being to get him to fulfill his destiny and destroy the Immortal One. Perhaps not as shocking as some later entries on this list, it was still surprising to see Mr. Sinister be the catalyst for Apocalypse's downfall. Number 9, Gwen Stacy, Sins Past. Ever since it raised its ugly head in the Amazing Spider-Man 509, the Sins Past storyline has gotten a lot of hate. Whether this is justified or not is a discussion for another time, but what isn't in doubt is that Gwen Stacy sleeping with Norman Osborn made for a what the feck moment of epic proportions. When Peter receives a letter from his long-dead ex-Squeeze, little does he know the horrors that lay ahead of him. Confused and looking for answers, he visits Gwen's grave, only to be attacked out of the blue by 2 masked assailants who lay a beating on him before he can escape, a pattern that is repeated every time they meet. Through DNA testing, it is revealed that these new villains are in fact Gwen's children. The kids believe that the webhead is their father and had abandoned them, but the truth is far weirder. Having been sworn to secrecy, MJ finally confesses that Gwen had gone to see Norman when he was at his lowest ebb and gave him some sympathy sex. This led to her falling pregnant and to everyone reading the story to shake their heads in collective confusion and a little bit of shame. Number 8, Supreme Intelligence, Operation Galactic Storm. Operation Galactic Storm was a 19-issue crossover arc that primarily dealt with the war between the Kree and Shi'ar empires. The biggest drama of the series comes with the detonation of the Nega Bomb, a device so powerful that its detonation slaughters billions of Kree instantly. The biggest twist to the tale comes when it is revealed that the Kree's own leader, the sentient AI Supreme Intelligence, was responsible for pretty much the entire war and the detonation of the bomb, betraying and killing billions of its own people. In terms of sentient lives lost, this betrayal is the biggest on this list and probably among the biggest in comics. The crime was so great that ultimately it led to the Avengers executing Supreme Intelligence, even after they'd captured and neutralized it. Number 7, Ultimate Reed Richards, The Maker. What happens when a genius loses everything? Well, apparently they betray their friends, go mad, and come back as a supervillain known as the Maker. Everything is going as smoothly as can be expected for a group of people constantly fighting threats to the Earth, right up until the Ultimatum series, where the deaths of countless heroes alongside a breakup with Sue, and the disbanding of the Fantastic Four drive Reed over the edge. After faking his death, a new Reed Richards is unleashed on the world in the form of the Maker, and it's this version that is confronted by all his former allies after they realize just what a threat he is to the planet. Sadly, even though they defeat him, Evil Reed returns time and time again, seeking revenge. Number 6, Scarlet Witch, House of M. There is an argument to be made that what Wanda Maximoff does here is more a case of self-preservation than actual betrayal. After all, her so-called friends and allies are in the process of deciding if they should kill her or not due to her mental instability, and it seems logical that someone with her immense power would do whatever they could to survive. In that sense, it isn't the whole House of M saga that makes it onto this list, but what she does when she realizes she has lost. After her father turns on her when he is told the truth of what's occurred, the real betrayal lays in her final actions when it's all coming apart. With a simple "no more mutants," Wanda decimates the mutant population from millions down to hundreds, meaning that not only does she turn on her friends, but the entire mutant populace as well. Number 5, Logan. Old Man Logan. Being responsible for the deaths of one of the most beloved teams in the Marvelverse is never a good thing to have on your CV, especially if the reason you commit such an act is down to Mysterio casting an illusion on you. 50 years have passed since the supervillains finally got their act together and teamed up to massacre all the Capes, and in that entire time, Wolverine has never once popped his claws in anger. While traveling the wastelands with Hawkeye, he finally comes clean about that night and how, while under the control of a man with a fishbowl on his head, he had murdered the X-Men, believing them to be enemies, launching a full-out attack against the Xavier Institute. The horror and carnage of seeing all your favorite mutants wiped out in a single panel is breathtaking by itself. This is legit one of the most tragic events in all comics, at least in my opinion, and although it is definitely Mysterio's fault, Logan still felt that he was the one who'd betrayed his friend. Number 4, Sharon Carter, Death of Captain America. In the aftermath of Civil War, Captain America is in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody on his way to trial. Cuffed in restraints that limits his powers, he climbs the steps to the courthouse. A sniper's dart appears on the officer in front of him, and Steve, being Steve, does what comes naturally and throws himself in front of the bullets. Rushed to the hospital, it's obvious that this very well might be the end for old Cap, dead at the hands of Crossbones of all people. Except that it turns out that even though Crossbones fired the shots, the follow-up rounds were delivered by Sharon Carter at point-blank range while under the influence of Dr. Faustus, who is in league with the Red Skull. Though an incredibly convoluted way to go around taking out your biggest enemy, the fact that the killing blow is dealt by the woman he loves makes Sharon Carter's actions genuinely jaw-dropping. Number 3, Iron Man, Civil War. And talking of Civil War, when the rest of the world gets sick and tired of superheroes causing millions in damage, as well as the deaths of innocent bystanders, they create the Superhuman Registration Act. This demands that anyone with powers register their identity with the government so they can be regulated and act according to law. Initially against the idea, it doesn't take Tony Stark long to change his mind and become a lackey for the government, and in doing so, put himself at odds with Captain America. Iron Man is tasked with bringing him in, and in attempting to do so, ignites the fire that turns into a full-blown civil war. The apparent ease with which Tony Stark switches sides isn't the most what-the-heck moment here. What is most shocking is that he's willing to go up against a man who he considers his friend and stop him no matter the cost by deploying some seriously underhanded tactics. Number 2, Gambit, Mutant Massacre. From a street brat to master criminal, Gambit's always been somewhere outside the law and performed acts that his older and wiser self is not proud of. But anything he may have done in the past pales in comparison to his role in helping Mr. Sinister massacre the Morlocks. Unsure of how to deal with his powers, he turns to Sinister for help, who agrees as long as Gambit is willing to do a few jobs for him in return. With no other option available to him, he starts to take on missions, and one of these has him lead a team called the Marauders into the tunnels under New York, where they set about slaughtering everyone they can find. This also includes them nearly wiping out the X-Men when they show up to save the day. Number 1, Captain America, Secret Empire. Secret Empire is the Marmite of comic books in that everyone either loves it or hates it. Yet there is no denying that seeing the man who once punched Hitler in the face turn coat and becoming the poster boy for fascism is easily the most shocking betrayal in Marvel history. Even though it's not really our Steve Rogers that's causing all the trouble, what with him being trapped inside a cosmic cube and all, it's still Captain America that is at the forefront of Hydra's push for total world domination. Eventually, the OG Cap is freed from his prison in time to help lead the charge and win the day, but at the cost of Rick Jones, Jack Flag, and Black Widow's lives, it was a devastating price to pay for being betrayed by a false idol.